Today, for episode 14, we have the incredible Epic of Gilgamesh to talk about.
Yes, sir.
The oldest known text that we have in the world.
So I actually just heard the other day that
Allegedly.
it is debated among scholars, rather it is the oldest, but it is also widely believed among scholars to be the oldest.
For my Christian homies out there, that means that this predates Job, which, as far as we know, is the oldest
book in
book
the Bible.
of the Bible, of our current canon and our non-denominational faith and our Protestant faith. So, what does this entail? It entails the search for immortality by the 2/3 God, 1/3 man, Gilgamesh.
And let us not forget his friend,
Enkidu. His broski.
Forever broski. So, throughout the story, there are some parallels between this and the Bible. Some similarities. I personally so when we first approached this story, it's widely said that there's some strong similarities. I thought they were not super strong, but there are similarities that we will see.
I was actually mistaken by what it was about, because I didn't think it was entirely about this dude's journey to kill this beast Humbaba in the forests of, I'm assuming, Lebanon? I don't think it says that it's the Lebanon forest.
It was the forest of Lebanon.
The great cedars of Lebanon.
Yes.
But my impression, because of what everybody else on the internet has to say, is that it was an account of the flood.
Oh.
But that is not true. It references the flood.
But
we
it's not
have
limited to that.
Noah, but that's just a small part in the story, and it's not until the very end that Gilgamesh even talks to Noah.
And in this story, it's not Noah per se; it's Itnupishtim. Did I say that right? Itnupishtim.
Itnupishtim.
Yeah.
Yes.
He did piston. What?
However, we can assume that it's Noah because he was the sole survivor of a worldwide flood that wiped out the entire earth and all its inhabitants, except for Utnapishtim, because he was told beforehand that the flood was going to come by a god that felt sympathetic towards people, because they didn't want all of mankind to be wiped out. So they give Noah, Utnapishtim,
let's not get too ahead of ourselves, though. And
true. Yes, this is
Yes.
This is the last quarter of the book.
Yes, it's far down the line. So the story begins. Well, first of all, I believe there was references to this story. It was people had heard of it, but there was no source until the mid-1800s.
It was discovered.
Yes, by archaeologists. Many archaeologists were
on a tablet.
Yeah, going throughout the Middle East looking for evidence to prove and back up the Bible. And this led to many excavations that led to the discovery of other things we've talked about, like the Gospel of Thomas.
There's also those occasional accidental discoveries, like the Dead Sea Scrolls. That was an accident. I think the story there goes, some kids were throwing some rocks into a cave and it broke something when they threw it in there, and they're like, what was that? So they go in, they're like, we broke a pot that these scrolls are in. And upon translation, now we have the Dead Sea Scrolls, which backed up a lot of the historical Old Testament books in the Bible.
There was books like the book of Isaiah. And some books that are actually kind of apocryphal were discovered in there. But today, we are not discussing the Dead Sea Scrolls today.
We should talk about the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yes, definitely. I agree.
Because it's a strange world, and those are some strange books.
And not only I think it'd be cool to go through all of the, for example, all of the Gospels that we don't find in our current New Testament canon.
There are some fascinating things in the Apocrypha.
For sure.
Some is very obvious why they were left out, and others is kind of confusing as to why. Mm-hmm. For example, there's like 5 or 6 extra Psalms that weren't included in the book of Psalms that, by all accounts, they sound exactly like you take those last 10 Psalms in the book of Psalms that are just straight praise to God for his goodness and his greatness. And that's what these extra Psalms are that we don't have in the Bible, but for some reason they weren't included.
Do they mention other gods at all?
They don't, man. They are strictly, like, you take Psalm like 150, the very last one, is praise the Lord, praise God in his sanctuary, praise him in his mighty heavens, praise him for his acts of power, praise him for his surpassing greatness, praise him with the sounding of the trumpet, and on and on and on, just about praise. And that is as generic as what these apocryphal Psalms are. It's kind of hard to rationalize why they were left out.
There is thought amongst biblical historians that many of our Old Testament, they believe there's a lot of portions in the Old Testament that were monotheized, per se. I don't know if that's a word, but it's a word we're using. And they were given like a monotheistic spin, but there's like similar Psalms that are like in older, more pagan texts. So it's like where they like adopted that, but then reformed it and made it monotheistic. So I think some are like maybe not too, like they're not monotheistic enough, I've heard.
So, rabbit trail aside.
Yes, let's turn around and go back to
Epic.
Go back to Uruk, the kingdom where this story takes place.
Theorized to be the current day of Iraq.
Iraq, which makes sense, if you look at the word or if you listen to the word.
U-R-U-K, Uruk.
Our hero is Gilgamesh, and as Jonathan said, Gilgamesh was...
I wouldn't call him a hero, per se. He was pretty cruel to his people.
Yes. I would say, like, don't think about this story like a story of a hero, but more of, like, think of it along the lines of, like, the Greek tragedies.
He's an anti-hero.
Mm-hmm. And I think this is, like, it is, like...
He turns into a hero, though.
It's supposed to be a story of, like it's the moral of the story is like, I do think there's a moral of the story.
It's that you're going to die.
Well,
so you better freaking accept it.
I'd like to wait till the end of it to pull out what I've heard that it is. But it's definitely, I think, best understood it in terms of a tragic tale.
It is quite tragic. But it's only tragic because of 2 details. One is tragic when Enkidu...
Dude.
True.
Dude,
Okay.
Enkidu. Come on, man.
No spoilers. We got to take it in order.
Yes, in order.
So let's start at the beginning.
The people are calling out to the gods.
They're desperate. Because Gilgamesh is such a cruel and authoritative leader.
He's the king.
He is the king of Uruk, which is a city with great walls.
It says he's exhausting the young men in like physical competitions.
And so cruel of a leader and powerful.
He is.
To the point where when somebody wanted to get married in his city.
Prima nocta.
There's a term for it?
Yes.
Wow.
Prima nocta. When the king...
I love your knowledge, dude.
A bride and groom's wedding night, he gets to have first access to the bride. So it's like the oldest form of cuckoldry we have.
Dude.
Probably not. There's probably older forms than that, but...
Hey, but this is the oldest text that we know of that exists. So as far as anyone's concerned, this is the very first mention of... What word did you just use?
Prima nocta.
No, the other one, cuckoldery.
Cuckoldry.
Makes me uncomfortable to say that.
We haven't used words like that on this podcast before.
No. Is that a swear? Would that make this explicit?
It definitely is like an explicit word, but I don't know if it'd be a cuss word person. That might make this episode explicit, which might be fitting for the Epic of Gilgamesh.
It's not explicit outside of like the first 2 chapters. After that, it's just a heroic tale of adventure.
Yes.
But, okay, so there's this guy, Gilgamesh.
The gods are calling out because he's being a tyrant to them.
The people are calling out to the gods.
Yes. What did I say?
You said the gods are calling out.
The people are calling out to the gods.
Because this man that was created by the gods, 2/3 man, or 2/3 god and 1/3 man, he's cruelly leading his people.
Father a demigod, mother a goddess. Which is like kind of backwards from how it usually goes.
Indubitably.
These demigod type guys.
So when the gods hear the people crying out, they come up with a solution. Let's make an equal to Gilgamesh.
To tame him.
To tame him. And taming will be a term used later with this guy that the gods create. And this guy, Enkidu, also 2/3 god and 1/3 man.
They make him from the clay of the earth.
That is quoted directly.
Yes.
The clay of the earth. And this man is released into the wilderness. He runs with the wild animals, and he has long hair.
Lives like an animal.
He harasses the local hunters and takes the animals out of their traps.
And sets them free.
Yes.
It's kind of like a archetypal, oldest version of Captain Planet. He's this wild man.
Captain
Beast
Planet.
man. He's a weirdo.
Oh, nostalgia, bro.
He's this wild man. I have kind of pictured in my mind Beast from X-Men, except he's not blue.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, he's this. Both him and Gilgamesh are both mentioned to be these giant hawks of men.
These are like your single percent body fat, muscular bodybuilder dudes.
Not only that, but it does mention a particular size in the story. Like they're like.
It does?
Yes, but I can't remember. They're big.
Well, they're chiseled. They're yoked. They're swole, as they would say today, as the kids would say. So
the gods create
Enkidu,
this rival.
I hate his name, dude. It sounds so playful. Enkidu. But yeah, this guy in strength is the equivalent of Gilgamesh.
Yes.
But with no social intellect at all. He's running wild in the wilderness with the animals.
He's basically he's posed as being like innocent, not under like he doesn't have like necessarily the consciousness that we have, you know?
Yes, he was raised by the animals.
Yes.
And this hunter guy, this hunter kid, is going out and he's like freaking all my traps are getting robbed or something.
Yeah, there's Enkidu. He catches an Enkidu one day, setting his traps free.
Yeah, and then he goes to his dad. He's like, "Yo, Pops, there's this freaking wild idiot out here releasing all my aminals. What the frick should I do?" And his dad has this expert wise advice. He says, "Go to the temple of Ishtar."
Yes.
Where there are prostitutes. Temple prostitutes willing to give themselves to the pleasures of man whenever they want.
It was like kind of posed that the job of these temple prostitutes was to basically teach people about sex, the arts of sex, it says. So like I think
this is the extreme version of sex though.
This temple of Ishtar was like they'd go there to like learn about sex, you know, and by having sex.
Quote unquote learn, but we all know what this temple is probably like. This is like our prehistoric brothel.
Oh yeah.
This is like these women are laying around waiting for these horny dudes to come in and please them. So anyway, this young hunter guy, under the advice of his dad, goes to the temple, grabs a prostitute.
No, wait. His dad, has the idea. She's not only a prostitute, she's like a priest prostitute.
In the temple of Ishtar.
She's like a professional. Like it says she's going to teach him the arts of love, or arts of, what does it use?
They say, hey, prostitute chick lady, use your seductive prowess to tame this man.
The one I was listening to said the love arts, or it used the word.
It indeed, yes, the love arts. Seduce this man.
The art of seduction.
So they take this lady out into the forests of the wilderness, where Enkidu is running rampant with the wild animals, with his long hair, naked.
And she just kind of sets out there in the middle of the field.
This hunter guy is like, sit here, prostitute temple lady, and disrobe yourself. Sit here with your legs open and touching yourself.
Yep.
And when Enkidu comes, seduce him with your love arts, show him what it's like to be with a woman, so that the animals won't recognize him and he will be tamed.
So
that language is very interesting.
Yes.
That they use there. I don't know exactly what it would insinuate. I mean, like outside of the obvious, but like this seems like some kind of knowledge that we don't have anymore.
Well,
or maybe some kind of local belief.
Similarities so far I'd like to point out between this and Genesis. We have a man being made out of clay, which is pretty common with a lot of creation stories. Yeah, Adam. And then you have him and this temple prostitute. Her name was Shemot.
Oh man, I don't know if mine listed her name. The book that I was listening to.
Shemot. So it says they bone for 7 days. 7 days. They bone.
Finds her, and she seduces him.
And they
do it.
And they for 7 days.
1 week straight.
Yep.
What a beast.
I don't know. And you'll see it also a pattern of 7 in this story multiple times.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of places, actually.
A lot of places.
So now he's tamed, quote unquote tamed. The animals no longer recognize him, therefore they don't communicate with him anymore. So he ends up going back to the city of Uruk.
Well, yeah. And it mentions he has this shift of consciousness, right? Like, he's going back to the animals and they run away from him.
Yep.
And he's, thinking differently. So here, somehow him having sex with a woman, it changed him. It changed his consciousness. And he's thinking like a human now.
We are traversing a strange world.
Yes.
Here.
And so, here we have another similarity between this and Genesis. A woman kind of bringing a man out of conscious or innocent consciousness into civilized consciousness, maybe. So I thought maybe it's telling that the difference in his consciousness was civilized. He was ready to go live amongst humans in civilization. And then before he was a wild man. So perhaps the writers of Genesis had similar thought in terms of what the difference is in Genesis between knowing good and evil.
Do you think this could be referencing... Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, probably not. But it makes me think of Lilith. If you... Some alternate texts to the Bible will tell you that Lilith was Adam's first wife, who left him due to some sexual disagreements. And then Adam was introduced to Eve because he cried out to God saying, "Hey, Lilith left me. Wah, I'm sad, and I'm a pussy, and I'm all alone here and depressed." So God's like, if you're not, young Adam, I have your best interests in mind. I'll make another woman. You need to fall asleep, though, so I can, like, steal one of your ribs and make her.
Well, and so, like, the disagreement between Adam and Lilith was she wanted, and during sex, she wanted to be on top, and he wanted her to be on bottom. And she said that, well, we were both made from the dust of the earth. That makes us equals. And he refused to be on the bottom. And so then she like screeches out, sprouts wings, flies up to the heaven. God curses her, turns her into a demon. And then God creates Eve from Adam's rib to make her not his equal. And again, this is in the eyes of that's not my opinion.
I don't even know what that's from.
People, well,
I've just heard it.
Lilith, like, I believe it has its origins probably most evidently in the Talmud. That would be probably one of the best and oldest sources to garner some knowledge about Lilith, just because, like, you know, there's ideas by the rabbis about Lilith that predate Jesus. It's like after the Babylon. That's like between the Babylonian exile and the time of Jesus is when, like, some of this mythology and demon lore in the amongst Israel and Judaism really started to evolve. And yeah, so Lilith.
Adam thought it was improper to be submitted to a woman, to give her a sexual position of dominance.
Yeah.
By being on top.
And so Lilith becomes like this cursed demon, and in like Judaism and other Semitic religions, she's kind of seen as, like, you know, if a man has like a wet dream or
oh yeah, dude,
whatnot, it's like said that Lilith, she's blamed for other like sexual infirmities too, like maybe like ED or barrenness or whatnot.
So,
however,
back to Gilgamesh.
These rabbit trails, I love them.
I know, dude. Lilith. All right, so
that's another thing we should do an episode about.
We should, actually. Enkidu goes to the city because he's led there by the prostitute and this hunter guy.
Yes.
And he meets the infamous Gilgamesh. And they decide to fight because what's more manly than having a fight with your equal?
Well, the Gilgamesh was about to do his prima nocta thing. There was a wedding feast going on, and Enkidu was asking, what's this going on? They explain it. Shimho explains it to Enkidu. He gets mad about it. Mm-hmm. And so Gilgamesh is, after this couple's wedding, he's headed towards the bridal chamber. Enkidu blocks him off. Then they begin to fight.
And here's our second reference to 7 days.
They fight for 7 days. It says portions of the kingdom were totally demolished. So think of like a Marvel battle between like Hulk and Hulk Smasher, the Iron Man suit Hulk Smasher. They're just tearing through the city, brawling in the streets, kicking and gouging in the mud, the blood, and the beer.
But nobody's named Sue.
Only Enkidu.
I hope somebody understands that reference.
Me too.
So they fight for 7 days.
They fight for 7 days.
If I'm not mistaken, Gilgamesh actually wins.
He lands a blow directly to Enkidu's chest, knocks him down.
Yep.
Helps him back up.
He's like, you are my equal. Mm-hmm. You're my broski.
He's like, hey, you want to be bros?
I've never seen anybody as strong as you before.
Yeah. Oh, by the way,
make an alliance.
Before this happened, between the time where the gods were creating Enkidu and Gilgamesh met Enkidu, he had a dream that do you remember what the dream?
No. Gilgamesh has a dream.
He has this dream
of Enkidu.
It's the star. Yeah, it's the star descending towards him. And he goes to his mother. His mother, I believe is a prophet or a priestess of...
No, his mother's the god.
Yes, you're right.
I forget her name, though. What's her name? Dang it. I'm going to look it up.
I have notes.
Gilgamesh's godly mother. Ninsun.
Ninsun. Here, I want to actually...
The deity associated with wisdom and known for her loving and nurturing nature. She was not the highest god, as we'll see later in the story, but she was the one that created both Gilgamesh and Enkidu.
Yes.
So they have this fight for 7 days, and they become broskies. And this is where the epic begins. Once they become friends, they go and decide, hey, let's do some manly stuff and make some names for ourselves.
Yes.
Let's go cut down some of these cedars of Lebanon and bring them back and build something. Let's just go cut some trees down, because we're men. We're manly men. And, however, there's this creature that's guarding this forest. Humbaba. The dragon that was set in place by the gods.
Your translation said dragon?
Yes.
Mine said ogre.
Ogre?
Yeah.
What?
Which I would say
this is contradicting.
Dragon is like, it's a more like Middle Eastern type idea, I think, than an ogre. So I would say that's probably more accurate.
They go on this journey to this forest.
The cedars of Lebanon. Which
on
is
the journey
also
there,
mentioned in the book of Ezekiel. Lebanon was known for its massive trees. And to us, it's like cedar trees. Yeah, and to us, we're like, what's so special about these trees? But in the ancient
these
world,
mofos were huge.
They were huge. And where Iraq was located, it's kind of known for, like, in some places in the desert, like the trees, the lumber, it wasn't super strong.
These are the trees that Solomon's temple itself was built
cedars
from.
of Lebanon. So, like a king in the ancient world, part of his job as king was to provide his people with resources. And so this thing, the cedars of Lebanon that he was bringing back, they talked about how it's going to create a great name for them amongst the people, because they're not only slaying the monster Umbaba, but they're bringing back spoils to give to the people and to build a temple. I believe they want to build a temple with these great cedars.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't in the Bible the Queen of Sheba the one that was over the land in which the cedars of Lebanon were located? Mm-mm. Or was that somebody else?
Sheba was from Ethiopia, I believe, which is south of Israel. I believe that Lebanon is north.
I know Solomon had something to do with the Queen of Sheba. What was that?
It just mentions that she came and she brought spices. She brought, well, actually, let's look it up.
Let's look it up. Verifiable facts here. You won't hear nothing less. Cedars of Lebanon. So Humbaba, according to my translation, while Isaiah's looking up this Sheba Solomon connection, Humbaba was a dragon set in place to protect the cedars of Lebanon from anything that might come into the vicinity causing damage or trying to take any of the trees, which in our story will include Gilgamesh and Enkidu. So this dragon kills anything, whether it's a threat or not, that comes anywhere near it. And even before Gilgamesh and Enkidu decided to go out to look at these trees, to get out there, the people are like, hey, this is stupid. You're going to get killed by this dragon because it's too strong.
Not only that, the counselors, they're saying, Gilgamesh, what are you doing? Gilgamesh's mother. That's a pattern that I would like you to notice throughout the story, is Gilgamesh is constantly going against counsel of not only the gods.
Everybody he meets along the way.
Everybody, yeah.
Yep. Including the scorpion people that we'll get into.
And that's another thing, is like, this is like right off the bat, a story about a man, a demigod, that he's constantly defying the gods. Like, the gods placed Umbaba to protect the cedars because they're known as sacred, you know? And, well, we're about to find out what Gilgamesh does to Enkidu, whom the gods placed there to protect the
Humbaba.
cedars. Yeah.
Humbaba, not Enkidu.
Oops.
So, on the journey, they have to traverse these mountains. where they rest. When they get to the top of every consecutive mountain that they get to, they fall asleep. Or Gilgamesh falls asleep.
He has a dream.
He has these dreams, and every time he wakes up, he's like, Enkidu, my skin is cold. I have these chills, and I'm frightened. I've had this dream.
The way they describe things in
dream?
this story is very, it's kind of impressive for how old it is, but they would describe their body and their emotions in this almost like very poetic way.
But also in like this high school way. Like it's not crafted like poetically, or it's not complex. It is so simple of a story. The details, they just fall into place. Anybody could write this story the same way.
But like the way they described like their like it's like that in that time that they were like, oh yeah, my skin does feel cold when I get, like they're making these connections that
every one of those visions, Enkidu's like, my brother Gilgamesh, fear not, for this vision means that we will be victorious in slaying the monster Humbaba. And he has like 3 or 4 of these visions until they finally get to the cedars of Lebanon, the edge of the forest,
of Lebanon,
the entrance where there is a trail carved through the trees by the traversing's of this great beast Humbaba.
And it's said that he can hear a footstep from miles away.
Yes. So Humbaba hears these 2 jerked over gods that are 1/3 man. He's like, what are you doing in my woods?
And at this point, you find out Humbaba can talk. Because the way they would describe him earlier on before is he's a ghastly creature that belches lightning from his mouth.
Does that sound like the behemoth from Job to you?
The behemoth? I've wondered.
Or maybe the Leviathan?
Because I believe the behemoth is mentioned. He is mentioned in reference to the cedars. Let me pull that up real quick.
It's also interesting that the Leviathan, I know that's in Job. So we have these ancient beasts that are mentioned in these oldest texts that we know about.
Leviathan was recognized as more of a sea serpent.
Yeah, it says, who can... I'm going to stretch on my quotes here, so don't quote me exactly, but the Bible in Job says something like, who can cast and catch Leviathan
It's from
fish
Job.
hook?
Yeah. Can you catch?
Yeah.
Can you hook his mouth? Can you capture him with a net?
Yeah, his scales are impermeable. They're side to side, edge to edge.
Okay, so that the concept of the what the hell? My mind is running a blank. You just said it. The
scales?
No, the creature.
Leviathan.
Leviathan. Why did I forget that? The concept of the Leviathan in itself would be a very cool conversation for this because, like, it has its connections to a lot of Mesopotamian mythology, actually.
Mesopotamian mythology, dude. Talk to me about this.
So, like, the creation story in Mesopotamia took place with the king god Marduk.
Okay.
Basically, there was this battle between the gods. I'm going to summarize things real quick because that's not the focus of this episode. But there was this evil dragon. She was the mother of all the gods, and she had turned evil. She was trying to wipe out all the gods, and this is before Earth existed. It was just like this huge void. The universe was where the gods dwelled, and so Marduk, he vows to protect his brethren, the other gods, and he fights this dragon of chaos, Tiamat, and it says they fight in the water, and he dashes her into pieces. And with the body of this slayed dragon, he forms the world as we have today. So the world we have is formed. So, like...
What?
Yeah.
What? Where do you read this?
And so, like...
What is this in?
We have... this story, like it's mentioned multiple times in the Old Testament, of Yahweh slaying the Leviathan. At the foundations of the world, it mentions this happening at the foundations of the world.
Brain. What? In what? What book? Where can I read this?
I believe it's Isaiah. Do you want me to read this passage about the behemoth first?
Dude.
Or I could also do the Leviathan.
This is fascinating. Dude, a short rabbit trail. The thing that got me into conspiracy theories and stuff in the first place is two things. It's aliens and freaking
monsters.
The Nephilim
Yeah.
and ancient like god, angel, man things. Just reading about them, it was so fascinating that it set me down this path. Dude, I want to hear anything you know about.
Well, do you want me to go with the behemoth or we'll do the Leviathan because we're talking about it right now.
Whichever one you got, dog. Yes, the Leviathan is like basically imagine your Loch Ness monster, but like armor plated and militant, you know. And then the behemoth is like I always pictured one of them brontosaurus dinosaur kind of things.
Leviathan.
Land dwelling. But then we have the conspiracy theory that dinosaurs didn't even exist. You know, these giant bones that we find are just ancient bones of giants. And that dinosaurs, you know, because every museum that we have, those bones that are on display for a dinosaur display aren't actual bones. They're models. The Smithsonian Institute swoops into all these archaeological sites where they actually find these giant bones and take them away. And then while all the archaeologists and researchers that found these things in the first place are waiting for the articles to come out and the displays to come out with all the bones that they found, it never does. And we're just left with these paper mache and plaster models of the originals that are just composites and put together to display a dinosaur when in fact we don't even know what the hairy they were. We don't have any complete dinosaur fossils in the entire history of the world when we've been excavating. But if you go to the libraryofcongress.com, their website, you can find old news articles from the mid and late 1800s saying that there is fields found in the Midwest and Western states in America of like fields of like 20 or 30 giant human skeletons, anywhere from like 8 feet tall to 20 feet tall, and sometimes even more. But do you hear about that today? No. Do you hear about that in museums or in history books? No. All part of the history that's suppressed, part of the strange world where we only know like what the people in control want us to know.
All right.
Sorry for my rabbit trail, my conspiracy.
I'm not sure what all you said.
Yeah, you're looking up your behemoth over there. So what you got?
This is actually the Leviathan. Okay, so I was saying that there's the Babylonian creation story where Marduk slays Tiamat and he forms the world with her slain body. Okay, so this is a passage from Psalms. Psalm 74. I like reading things in context.
Who wrote it, first of all? David? Saul?
I'm not entirely sure.
Solomon?
Well, not all Psalms were believed to be written by. All right, this is where I'm going to start. I'm going to start in Psalm 74, verse 12. For God is my king from of old, working salvation in the midst of the earth. You've divided the sea by your strength. Okay, so right here we see, this is talking about creation. You divided the sea by your strength. You broke the heads of the sea serpents in the wilderness. You broke the heads of the Leviathan in pieces and gave him as food to the people inhabiting the wilderness. You broke open the fountain and the flood. You dried up mighty rivers. The day is yours. The night also is yours. So that's that.
Talk about a piece of scripture that's never preached on. That's the top of the list right there. I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about that.
So, like, you would find most of that information probably, like, I believe Pastor Don would be familiar with that idea.
Oh, man, we gotta talk to him about this stuff. We have to organize some scriptures to
Anybody
ask
who's
him
been to,
about.
like, seminary or, like, studied comparative mythology.
His knowledge of scriptures is inspiring to me.
Good.
Really.
Yeah, no, I definitely enjoyed speaking with him. Looking forward to future conversations. Shout out to Pastor Don. Oh, by the way, if you're listening to this, I didn't mention it last time, but I like to tell my audience, our audience, where they can check out our guests. He has a podcast, Talk About It podcast.
Talk about it.
Pastor Don Smith. So if you want to hear more from Pastor Don, go ahead and check that out. Back to the show now. So we kind of bunny trailed a little bit talking about
The behemoth.
old Middle Eastern monster mythologies. So we have this Umbaba, the Gilgamesh and Enkidu are in the cedar forest fighting with him. The Umbaba begs them not to kill him.
He's a pussy.
He can talk, and
He's about to die.
the closer it gets to his death, like, he actually becomes more human. When they first start describing him, he's kind of like seen as this ghastly creature that they're going to slay.
Yeah. He's like, I will slay you. This is your last chance.
And he's like, the
Turn
gods
back
are going to
and-
be angry at you for doing this to me. And they do it anyway. They kill him.
They cut his head off.
Bring it back to the Temple of Enlil, I believe it was. Enlil, he was the top god of the multiple Middle Eastern ancient pantheons, such as the Canaanite, Mesopotamian. It's also where we get the word Elohim, which is the word used for God in the Old Testament.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Not
So-
Enlil, Elohim. Which is like, El is just like, it's like Aramaic for mighty one. It means God, which to them meant high one or mighty one. El Elyon, God most high in Hebrew. So they bring it to Enlil's temple. Enlil is displeased. Big surprise there.
It's like my pet, my creature that has been set before this forest to protect it. You slaughtered it. You stupid humans. God/human things. Hybrids, you mutts.
All the gods, they have kind of their own personality. Different motives, sometimes not in line with each other's.
So the god that created Gilgamesh, what was her name? Ninsun. She's all ticked off.
But there is a god that Gilgamesh and Enkidu in particularly do honor and never dishonor.
That's the high god.
The high god.
The biggest
the
one.
sun god.
The one that created the god that created them.
Yes.
Who the god
Shemosh.
Ninsun answers to, because when she was all ticked off that they killed her little pet Humbaba, she's like, hey, sun god, look what these crackers did to my pet. Let me get my revenge on him. And God's like, looks fair and square to me. They just killed this thing and, deal with it. And so she petitions him.
No.
Give me the bull of heaven.
She goes to Enlil. The god that Enkidu and Gilgamesh followed was Shemosh. The sun god. He was known for healing.
There's a third god.
There's so many
Wait a
gods
minute.
in this story.
Wait a minute.
I think there's at least 12 of them.
There's this female god that created them.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes to the high god that she
Ninsun.
refers to her dad as her dad and says, hey, they killed Humbaba, who you set in place. So let me get my revenge on him. Right?
That's not what happens.
No, she first seduces
Ishtar, yeah, she wants to. This is Ishtar.
Ishtar.
Not the goddess that created them, is Ishtar.
Ishtar sees what they did to Humbaba. She's like, oh, Gilgamesh.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
See, that's why I said they have different motivations, because she's evidently pretty impressed by Gilgamesh's
You're pretty
slaying of
masculine, Gilgamesh.
Humbaba.
You should come here and sleep with me.
But Ishtar, her theme as a goddess is very Black Widow like. She's known as like she'll take these lovers and then leave them cursed and destitute.
Which Gilgamesh will mention.
Yes.
She tries to seduce Gilgamesh. And Gilgamesh, in his wisdom, is like, why would I want to be with you? Any dude that's been with you, you've killed him and taken everything from him after you blessed them in the ways that you said. So yeah, they're blessed, but you take away everything. She's like, I will give you everything. I will give you riches and gold and power and authority and all these things. And he's like, yeah, I don't want that because, like, you're just going to kill me later. And then she is, like, all upset and butthurt about it. She's like, well, yeah, hey, God that created me, I've been blasphemed against. I've been, like, verbally slaughtered by Gilgamesh. Do something to him.
No, she says she's going to, if he doesn't do something, she's going to raise the dead, and they're going to scream so loud.
Oh, yeah, dude.
That the gods aren't going to be to get any sleep.
And then the
So
big
basically,
god,
that's her way of saying, if I don't get what I want, I'm going to scream really loud.
I'm going to throw a fit. And then the big god's like,
Okay.
Did you seduce him? Or did he didn't insult you for no reason, did he? You probably tried to seduce him. It's like, yeah, but he insulted me, and I'm your child, so you gotta do something. Give me the bull of heaven, so that I can sick that after Gilgamesh and kill him.
Get him.
And so the big god's like, fine, here's my freaking bull, go for it.
And
then,
this is like the constellation of Taurus.
Really?
Yes.
You think so?
Sent down. And it is, I don't know
That's
what.
not clear in the text, though.
It's not clear, but like any like bull god in the ancient world was based off from that constellation.
Well, bull god or not, freaking Enkidu killed the dang thing.
After, though, it says that the bull ravaged the land and created he drank up the waters of the rivers of the Euphrates River.
My version didn't say
and
that.
he created this drought for 7 years. I don't know how this. Yeah, I don't know how this big guy managed to. But again, this is the pattern of 7.
Mine didn't say that.
Yeah.
It did not say anything about this bull drinking water. Mine said just that they sent the bull down and instantly goes into attack mode.
Maybe that's like you're taking.
This is interesting how different our texts were.
But this happens for 7 years. I don't know what's going on for 7 years that they didn't like do something about him, but they finally do.
Enkidu kills the mofo.
Kills him.
And then
Ishtar's standing on top of the temple,
crying again. Hey, they killed my bull. Do something.
And in some translations, Enkidu rips off a leg and throws it at her.
Throws it at Ishtar.
In some translations, he cuts off the penis and throws it at her feet.
I'm going to go with the leg because that's more digestible. No pun intended. So, Ishtar's ticked at this guy. She's like, hey, God, when they threw this bull at me, they insulted me and killed both of our pets. You gotta do something.
Decide that they're causing so much trouble, defying the gods so much.
It's a big god
that
himself.
one of them has to die.
He's like, I understand.
Yes, I understand, my daughter.
Enkidu must die.
And they decide it's going to be Enkidu. Enkidu has this dream where he dies.
Tells it to Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh
is distraught, but powerless to do anything against it, despite his futile prayers. And finally, Enkidu indeed dies. And here's our next reference to 7.
Not before cursing the temple priestess who found him and brought him.
Oh, dude.
He curses them. And then Shamash comes to Enkidu and is like, hey, because she's like a priestess to Shamash, I believe. They're friends. So he goes and he's like, hey, don't curse her. You know, if it wasn't for her, you wouldn't have met Gilgamesh. You guys would have went all your adventures. princes kissed your feet because of Gilgamesh. Like,
And then Enkidu.
it's like,
So
he takes it back.
I take back all that I said that was a curse, and instead, I bless you. May your days be plentiful, and your riches be great, and all this stuff. And then they're like, yeah, it's too late, dog. You gotta die still. So he dies. And then our next reference to 7. Gilgamesh
Leaves his
mourns
body out.
for him for 7 days.
Until
Holds his body, yes, until a maggot
falls out of his nose.
And that was the pivotal moment that begins Gilgamesh's epic journey after
the journey
Enkidu.
after the journey.
He's like, I'm going to die too someday. This is the fate of man.
Personally, this is my favorite part of the story when
He gets the resolve to go and seek immortality. And the first place he goes. Hey, actually,
one second.
Who tells him about Utnapishtim? Because he hears about him and goes and searches him out, but I'm a little rusty on...
Well, it's said that Utnapishtim is like, he's recognized amongst the people as he's the only man who's immortal.
So it's already like general knowledge too.
Yes, but he is known to be, he lives on this far-off island that's off and far beyond any territory known to man. And Gilgamesh.
This is fun.
Embarks.
It gets fun here.
Yes.
So Gilgamesh goes off on a journey.
Real quick, though.
Yeah.
What are we at on time?
We're at 52 minutes.
52 minutes.
I think we could do it in one episode.
Yeah.
We're like halfway. I think this is halfway.
We do have the flood and the...
Yeah, but once he meets Noah, it's like over, basically. Like,
Yeah,
there's
that's true.
nothing.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah, let's follow through. Carry on.
So, he's like, I must meet Utnapishtim and see and find the secret of immortality. So, he traverses across the fields on this grand journey.
In this strange world.
He finds a cave. At the freaking entrance of this cave, there are 2 scorpion men. Which, is that what your version said?
Yep,
Scorpion men? So whatever that means, these scorpion men are like, what you doing here? He's like, I'm seeking immortality from Utnapishtim. And they're like, hey dog, that's kind of dangerous, bro. You probably shouldn't go in that cave where Utnapishtim lies. Yeah, you should probably go back.
Once again, advisors advising against his schemes.
And Gilgamesh is like, no, I must go on this epic journey, and I must find this man, and see and find the secret of immortality. And they're like, yeah, we can't stop you. Just go in that cave there.
Yeah.
You're going to have to traverse through 7 days of darkness, though, and, yeah, you don't want to stop. Just keep going. Otherwise, you'll probably die. So, Gilgamesh goes in the cave and starts running. And remember, this guy is 2/3 God and 1/3 man, capable of doing more than any man could ever dream of doing. So he starts running through the darkness. Running. Day 1. He keeps running, and there's darkness all around him. Nothing can be seen in front of him or behind him or on either side. For 2 days he runs, and nothing can be seen but darkness in front of him, behind him, and on either side. And it goes on, and it repeats the same language for all 7 days until finally he... This is the part that cracks me up. He gets to the end of the darkness and finds a bar.
At the end of the world, there's a bar.
A bar. Which is tended by a barkeeper.
An alewife.
Naturally.
An alewife has...
And he sees this chick, and he's like, yo, I'm kind of tired. But,
And she's terrified when she sees him because... He's first been traveling before finding the cave. He's been traveling the world for a long time. She says, you look like you've went through this desert. Your face is sunken in.
Yeah.
You look like sleep has departed from you.
He's like,
Why? Why?
Yeah. And then he repeats the same thing. He's like, because I've traveled through the deserts.
Yeah.
And my face is sunken in because I'm tired. And I'm looking for Utnapishtim. And I hear that he is at the end of this cave. And I need to know how to get to him. And where to go. And what to do. So help me or I'll kill you. And she's like, hey, calm down, dude. Just ask this guy over here that tends the boats. And he'll probably sail you there. But I'm just here tending my bar. Like, freaking, you want a drink? And he's like, where's this guy? So
hold on real quick.
Yeah.
So he tells her that he's looking for immortality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And her response is actually pulled straight from Ecclesiastics.
Ecclesiastes. What is she? Are you sure? Really?
Yeah, here, I'm trying to pull it up. And we're back. So, Siduri, the alewife at the end of the world, at the bar at the end of the world, says this to Gilgamesh when Gilgamesh tells her about his mission to find immortality. She says, Gilgamesh, where do you wander to? The life that you seek, you will never find. When the gods create mankind... I'm not going to do that. When the gods created mankind, death they dispensed to mankind. Life they kept for themselves. You, Gilgamesh, this is from Ecclesiastics. Let your belly be full. Enjoy the day and night. Make merry each day. Day and night, dance and play. Let your clothes be clean, and let your head be washed. May you bathe in water. Look upon your little one who holds your hand. Let your wife delight in your bosom. Then over here in Ecclesiastes. I've heard it pronounced both ways. In Ecclesiastes 9, verse 7. It says, go eat your bread with joy and drink your wine with a merry heart, for God has already accepted your works. Again, this idea that, it's the gods, and this it's God. He's accepted your works. Let your garments always be white, and let your head never lack oil. Live joyfully with the wife whom you love all the days of your vain life, which he has given you under the sun. All the days of your vanity, for that is your portion in life, and in the labor which you perform under the sun. Wherever you find your hands to do so. Yes, that was the quote. So she's telling that to him.
He insists, I will not turn back.
I will not. Doesn't follow her counsel.
So she's like, well, since I can't convince you otherwise, because you're as stubborn as Toodles' grandpa, you might as well talk to this boat guy. He might know something. So he goes and talks to the boat guy, the boat tender.
Attacks him. Whacks him over.
Fights him.
Yeah, whacks him over the head with these stone. Yeah, can't talk. With these stone tools he has by his boat.
Bro, chill. What the frick did I do? What you need? And he's like, I need immortality, dog.
Well, no. First he says, I have traveled very far. He gives him the whole story.
And yes, there's so many things that repeat in this book. He's like, I've traveled 7 days through the darkness. Traveled across deserts, and my eyes are sunken in. And I'm seeking Utnapishtim.
Wait, no, before he gets to this guy, he has to run across the Sea of Death, remember?
No, he meets the boat keeper, and then they go across. Because the boat keeper says, go gather 300 poles, and we'll set sail. So Gilgamesh goes and gets these 300 poles, and then they set sail across the seas to go to the island where Utnapishtim dwells. Once they go out into the water enough distance, then the boat keeper guy, he's like, we have now reached the waters of death. Use these poles which you've reached. Stick them in the water and push the boat through. When one pole is, like, when you've gone as far as you can with one pole, let it go and grab the next. Do not touch the waters, for if you do, you will surely die. And so he goes through all these 300 poles. And when he goes through the last one, they run aground on the island of Utnapishtim and his wife.
At some point in the story, though, he has to run across the sea and outrun the sun. Because maybe this is a different translation. He has to outrun the sun because if the sun goes down while he's on the Sea of Death, he'll die. So it's like Sonic the Hedgehog level. Wow. Gilgamesh, yeah. So he gets to Utnapishtim's island.
Meets Utnapishtim face to face.
Yes.
And Utnapishtim is like all Monty Python. He's like, "What do you seek?" And Gilgamesh is like, "Your freaking gift of immortality. Do you know what I went through to get here?" And he's like, "I need to know how to not die." So Utnapishtim's like, "Yeah, that was a gift reserved to me from the gods because I was obedient to make this big old boat, this ark that everybody got on when the gods destroyed the world of water. And it can't be found by mortal man. So I'm sorry that you've come all this way, but I can't help you. You might as well go back."
Well, he goes into the flood story, right?
Yep. He tells him, and Gilgamesh asks him, like, how'd you get this gift? So then Utnapishtim, who we commonly know as Noah, goes and tells him the story of the flood. And this is the Gilgamesh version of the flood, which the gods were tired of mankind.
Because they were too freaking noisy.
Yeah. They were obnoxious and annoying. So the gods are like, let's kill them all and just have an earth without humans. So some of the gods...
So think of that person who is bothered by a dog barking way too much.
It's like, I'll kill every dog.
Yeah.
So one of the gods, privy to the story, or privy to the plan, was like, "Hey, Utnapishtim, this world's kind of going to get wiped out, so you need to make a boat, get your family on it to be safe, take some aminals with you, so that you got some food, and that you can, kind. Yep, you can have some repopulation of the earth after everything's wiped out." And because of his obedience, after the flood came, wiped out the earth, he survived, and all the animals that were with him on the ark, they got off, and he was rewarded, Noah was, Utnapishtim, with the gift of immortality. He can't die. So Gilgamesh thanks him for the story, and he's about to leave, depressed, because he can't get what he wanted. And Utnapishtim's wife has a little bit of mercy. And she's like, "Yo, man, Noah, my love, look how far he's come. We got to give him something. Like, tell him how to get immortality." And Utnapishtim's like, "Gilgamesh, you seek immortality. You want to be awake forever, but you can't even stay awake for 7 days. Like, just try to not fall asleep." So Gilgamesh is like, "Yeah, bring it." Sits down, falls asleep. So Utnapishtim tells his wife, like, "Hey, bake a loaf of bread every day this guy sleeps. So when he wakes up, he'll see how long that he slumbered." So 1 day passes, 2, 3, all the way up to our next reference of 7. So this wife bakes 7 loaves of bread, 1 each day, and Gilgamesh finally wakes up. And he's like, "All right, I went to sleep for half an hour. Like, where's this immortality?" And Utnapishtim's like, "Dude, you fell asleep for a week. Like, look at these loaves of bread my wife made. One for every day that you slept. And you want to stay awake forever? You couldn't even do this." And Gilgamesh is like, "Yeah, you're right. But I still want immortality, so you better give it to me."
And he's like, "Nah, sorry." And Gilgamesh is leaving, and then
his wife,
Utnapishtim's wife, is like, "Maybe we should tell him about the plant." He's like,
"What plant?"
And he goes back.
Hey, what you been hiding from me? And Utnapishtim, he's like, "Fine, I'll tell you. in the bottom of the sea is this plant,
This flower.
a flower, that if you pick it and eat it, you will have immortality.
Well, this says rejuvenate. It'll rejuvenate you. It's not specified immortality or not.
Really?
Important detail, yeah.
So, Gilgamesh is like, thanks, bro. Thank you for this information.
Goes out to the
I'll
sea,
go back.
ties rocks to his ankles.
It doesn't say how he got back across the seas of death. But somehow he does, and he gets to some random sea, ties a rock around his ankle, and does what no man could do, because he's 2/3 God, goes to the bottom of the sea, and finds this plant, and picks it.
Yes.
Comes back up, stuffs it in his pocket, and he's like, I'm not going to eat this and risk dying or something if this is a lie. So I'm going to take it to my kingdom and
Give it to an old man.
Yep, and I'll see if he gets rejuvenated. And if he does, then I'll eat what remains, and I will be immortal as well.
So he's going back.
And the tragedy of the story.
He decides to take a bath. I guess the seas that he dove into, like,
Too salty.
didn't clean him off well enough. Yeah. He finds a pool of water, takes a bath,
Strips naked.
leaves his garments laying on the side of the pool.
Which include the plant that is with them. And a freaking snake, dog.
Slithers up, eats it up, slithers away, shedding its skin while it slides away,
Symbolic.
indicating that it was rejuvenated.
But it left nothing. Except his
And
skin.
This is another similarity we have with Genesis. A sneaky snake slithering in and stealing our gosh darn immortality.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. Sneaky snakes.
Maybe it's the lizard people. Anyway,
They're
the reptilians, dog.
Dude,
like the
we
royal
need to,
family in England.
We need to do an episode on creation stories in general. Just go over some creation stories. And a snake, many times, is pretty, like, often shows up.
We need to do an episode on
snake or a dragon?
reptilians.
Reptilian.
The
Oh,
royal family, dog. They're reptilians.
we could tie in the two together, definitely, for sure, I think.
So Gilgamesh comes out of the pool. And he's like, oh no. My whole life's quest hasn't been in vain.
I presume he let out an epic no, the type where, you put your hands out, you look up to the sky.
Drop on your knees.
Drop on your knees, you really yell it out from your stomach.
The music in the scene
agony.
stops. It's silent. The thunder peals in the background.
A single tear
No.
traverses down his cheek,
The camera zooms out away.
drops off from his cheek, down onto the dust.
The scene goes black.
Yes.
And then,
He returns.
morbidly, he comes back home to Uruk.
Yes.
And on the way, he's like, look at this city, whose walls are so great that no man could ever dream of doing this in a lifetime. This is the accomplishment of a man fulfilling his full potential in his life. The end.
The end. But it would seem as though, like, Shiduri, and not just him, but multiple people that counseled him, told him to savor your life.
Yep.
Live now. Appreciate your life. That's like they really emphasized on, we are not meant to live forever. We have limited life. That's what makes certain things special to a certain extent in our lives. And so it would seem as though he accepted that, perhaps, that advice. Because he's like taking it in. He's like seeing
He's appreciating what he has.
That's his legacy, and that's the way he'll be immortalized. Through his legacy, his works.
You think that plant's a real thing?
No.
Let's go deep sea diving.
I don't think so.
Where's the Sea of Death? Let's go find that.
So what I think it possibly could have been making reference to is the Dead Sea.
You won't die if you touch the water.
Wait, no, never mind. I was thinking about the sea he has to dive into because, the Dead Sea's so dense you can float in it.
Maybe. It's like a lake of lava in a volcano. I don't know.
I think the story would say that if that was the case, because that would be quite significant.
It's the Sea of Death.
I don't know, Doug.
It's made, obviously, it must be made out of the same stuff the Ark of the Covenant's made out of, because when you touch it, you die, right?
Wait, what? Oh, the
Ark
water.
of the Covenant. When you touch it, you die.
I don't
the
think...
Seas of Death for Gilgamesh. When you touch them, you die.
The stories have similarities, but obviously, like, the authors of either story, like, they had, like, probably different, like, I don't think they...
So that's the Epic of Gilgamesh.
So I had heard...
Is it true?
I had heard somebody say that the Epic of Gilgamesh could be looked at as a cautionary tale of kings who don't follow the advice of their counselors. That it was written by a counselor telling this cautionary tale about a king.
He could have saved all this time and just followed the original advice and stayed in the city.
Been a good king, yeah. And
I pictured it as actually literal. Like, well, not literal, but like the quest for immortality is futile. You can't reach it, but it just went through this elaborate story to tell that moral. Like, you might as well leave a legacy, do what you can with what you got, where you're at, because you're not going to find immortality. Well, it is your lot.
In Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, they all have like these stories that there's like an important moral of the story, and they're like extra. They're like outside of the Quran or the Bible. Stories about like people like Abraham, David doing these like things. These archetypal people. Those are probably stories that maybe weren't entirely true, but they're using that to like put an emphasis on, like, rather than a random made up character, they're using somebody who like existed and who's an important character within their culture. But I don't know. I think I kind of lean towards, I like the idea that Gilgamesh was a real person, but
it could also be a fictional tale written just for the lesson.
Well, like, that's what
it's
I'm
hard
saying.
To tell.
Like, it's fictional in the sense of, like, he probably didn't, like, do all these, like, superhuman things. You know, maybe he was, like, a king who was just, like, he's a freaking beast. And in the internet today, a popular figure, it's so easy for, like, these stories and conspiracy theories to get spread about celebrities, and like, let alone, like, what was this, 3,000 years ago, when you can, like, a whole story can be created by like some people sitting around a fire late at night looking up at the stars. And so, like, Hercules, Gilgamesh, archetypal characters like that, perhaps they existed and they were like, they stood out, you know, they were like somebody important, like they're like the David Goggins or like Michael Jordans of their time, and there's like stories about them, legends. With like, there's a point of the story though, right? You would agree, like, an author had like do you think an author had a intention, like a point he's wanting to get across about this story?
I don't know if there is a point. Like, there's morals you can draw. Well, like what you said with the listening to your counsel, and what I was saying about seeking immortality is futile. So do it.
It is,
what
like,
you can,
in
but
a certain sense, a lot like Ecclesiastes.
It could just be,
when you think about the bulk of the story,
Ecclesiastes in a nutshell. The whole book says everything you do is meaningless and in vain except to know God. At the very end.
Well, it does say to enjoy life and to be like good. And
eat and drink and be merry.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, like, what if, like, you were to take Ecclesiastes, but you were to tell that in an epic story, I think you
That
would
would
get
be Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh. Yeah.
I think so too.
And lo and behold, Ecclesiastes, it doesn't say Solomon, but it mentions the preacher, and the author mentions himself as the preacher, but also mentions himself as the king. And it's alluded to that it was King Solomon, so that's kind of interesting that you have these two parallels of like a king writing like basically poetry more philosophically in Ecclesiastes, and then there's like the same message, but it's like an epic story. I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you going to say?
Just that it could be considered a parable. That's it. Jesus used parables to, those who have ears, let them hear, and understand what this means. I'm speaking in parables because, it's meant to be understood by some and not others. Gilgamesh could be the same thing. It's like it's showing a very clear example. It's not hard to figure out what it's about or what lessons it's trying to show you, but it's just doing it in a story as an example.
Yeah, right.
There's like this parable of the sower and the seeds, the parable of the prodigal son. It's like the parable of the farmer and his harvest. The parable of the guy that the tenants, I think, like he gives like 10 whatever currency to one guy.
Yeah.
And 5 to another and 1 to another. They all bring it back with interest except for the guy that only got one. Like it's like stories to teach a lesson, parables. I think Gilgamesh could be another one.
Right. No, I agree. The part of me that likes to go far out and wonder, the strange things about this world and our archaic past does make me wonder, were there people like that? Were there monsters? Like,
dude,
talks about.
There had to be, dude.
The philosophical and historical aspects of it aside.
There's weird dude. I've heard so many different things. Like, certain monsters could just be, okay, this is going to be out there. But if time travel was a thing, or if our history has just been manipulated and we're taught a certain thing that isn't true, this, maybe our technology goes farther back than it does. A fire-breathing, flying dragon could be a Air Force, fighter jet. Its fiery breath could be the guns, and its roar could be the engines and stuff like that. Ezekiel's vision of the circles and the eyes could be like a helicopter with windows or cameras on it. And, maybe it's just old technology. There's an ancient alien theory. Or maybe it is literal monsters, because you get a lot of... There's so many stories of different great beings. And then there's prophecies of great beings, too, that some people, they'll take like stuff in Revelation and... going off of translations in Daniel, where it explains the translations of animals with different horns and statues made of different materials. It's like, oh, this is representative of a nation. And, like Nebuchadnezzar, you're the top one of gold, Kingdom of Splendor, and each one of these other pieces, the iron and the clay and dirt, and like these are all different kingdoms. This bull this goat that has different horns, like these horns are the two kingdoms. This third horn that's coming up in the middle is going to be this new ruler. So we can take that and go directly to Revelations and apply the same logic to say that some of these visions, this symbology of animals, is kingdoms and nations. But there's also places that say like the depths are going to open up, these things are going to come out, scorpions with lion heads and wings like eagles and stingers that are going to sting you and make these big welts and stuff. It's like, that sounds kind of literal. So,
well, it is like, it was pretty common with like, in the ancient world, when a civilization was suffering under a greater empire, they would like write these poetic prophetic words And it's almost like they were like mysterious, like John, the author of Revelation. You know, I believe he was on Patmos, which is, I believe, was a prison island. You know, so he was writing it out of prison. The temple had just been demolished. Jews and Christians alike were being persecuted all over the diaspora. And I do believe much of what he was writing was alluding to the Roman Empire. And he did have to be, you know, he had to write in codes and like references, idioms that the community was aware of, you know, that, oh, the dragon, yeah, that represents the Roman Empire and whatnot. I do. A good book that I actually just listened to was the History of Revelation by I'm slow. Oh, are we back on?
Yep. I'll edit
it.
This
is Revelations, Visions, Prophecy, and Politics in the Book of Revelation by Elaine Pagels. I just got done listening to it. It was a good book. She's I believe, a New Testament historian. So she goes over. She has the belief that Revelation was just talking about events in the time of.
So nothing literal in it.
Nothing that like it's all like stuff that happened in the first century. It was all making reference to stuff that happened back in the first century.
So she doesn't think that any of those prophecies are for the future yet then.
Well, she's not a Christian for one. And that I believe. Like it's not approached with like a Christian bias, you know. It's just kind of giving the history of how the book has been interpreted, and then obviously she has her own interpretation as a historian, a New Testament scholar.
So you think these things in Gilgamesh are literal? These monsters? These gods? Or do you think they're just to tell the story, to draw that moral?
I think it's usually a little bit of everything, you know? Like, he probably was a real person. He probably did some epic things, you know. Maybe there's been like these specimens that have existed throughout time that were just like,
ooh, I agree with that.
Who knows what?
Yeah.
You know? I'm open to the possibility that maybe like aliens could be involved in our past, you know, in our history.
Dude.
But
the aliens and their genetic experimentation on the genes of mankind, and now they're in cahoots with the CIA in that Dulce base, you know, working underground. And
here you go again.
Dude, I'm telling you, it's all connected.
I like go to ask my AI a question, and you're like going all Alex Jones.
Alex Jones, bro. He gives us conspiracy theorists a bad name. He's like the stereotype that you don't want to be, screaming in a mic and getting all worked up over things that like are completely ridiculous.
Taking off your shirt.
Bro, he's the one that like, you listen to him and you think conspiracy theorists are crazy. I don't like that.
Dog, since we're in the topic of conspiracy theories now, you're going to be proud of me. I watched.
Yes.
Yep.
What? The pyramids?
No.
JFK?
It's on Netflix.
9/11?
Inside Job.
Inside Job! Dude, did you finish all of them?
All of them, yeah.
Dude, what do you think of it?
I really liked it. I loved all it covers almost every and any little conspiracy theory.
It comes fast, dude, from episode 1, dude. It's like lizard people and
makes so many references to like Reddit.
It's pop culture conspiracy theory stuff. Yeah. Conspiracy pop culture. Yeah.
Where I feel like a lot of shows like that, where it's like the animated adult humor. It's like pop culture, but it's not like internet pop culture. And I really like how
that show was
making
made.
comments about incels, flat earthers.
The flat Earth episode, bro. That sums up the flat Earth movement very well.
That creature that's like, it's like a psychedelic mushroom from the center Earth.
Oh yeah, dude.
It's like he's like this character where he's like can talk and he's like this alien.
And they milk his
mushroom.
freaking tentacles.
And they have like a mushroom experience. Yeah. They trip out.
That is the show that's made by conspiracy theorists for conspiracy theorists. And Netflix hated it and canceled it.
No, it's still on.
Yeah, they still play it, but they're not making new ones.
Oh, that's a shame.
Because, dude, it was not ready to end yet. Like, the end of it, like, they're just barely getting started. Netflix is like, this content is, too true.
When did the last season come out?
Dude, it's kind of old by now. Like, 2018, probably. Let's look it up. I think there's only 2 seasons of it.
There was...
Inside Job release date. 2021, first episode. Oh, there's only 1 season. Okay. So, yeah, I guess all 2021, maybe branched into 2022. The voice actors are freaking fun on that, too. Yeah. It's got great voices. I'm trying to think of the names of them. I'm drawing a blank on every one. Hey, you've seen, what's the psychedelic cartoon one?
Oh, Midnight Gospel,
yeah. Dude. Duncan Trussell. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been watching that, like, we're going through it our second time.
Darla was just watching it this morning. Or somebody was. I know I heard it at some point today. Somebody was watching. It must have been Darla. Yeah.
We've been watching the Supernatural series the second time through, and whenever we get bored of watching that every night, we'll watch Midnight Gospel.
What an interesting combo. I love it, though.
The Supernatural's fun. It's like there's some problems in their writing, but it's whatever. It's still fun.
We've talked about Supernatural so many, which it's traversing the strange world. It's fitting.
I mean, it's classic Americana, nostalgic kind of.
It's a throwback to the mid-2000s. Yeah.
I think season 1 came out in 2005. Like, you're on there with flip phones and leather jackets, eating bacon cheeseburgers, and listen to classic American rock while hunting all things obscure.
AC/DC.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Guns N' Roses, Led Zeppelin.
There's like at one of their episodes, there's like this, like, it's like a montage where it's like You Shook Me All Night Long by AC/DC. It's showing different like clips through their episodes where like fighting monsters and stuff.
That's one thing.
When 13-year-old Isaiah saw that, he thought that was badass. He was like, because 13-year-old Isaiah wasn't allowed to listen to AC/DC either. And he was like hearing that. And which, by the way, saw AC/DC in Detroit earlier this week on Wednesday.
Was there a mosh pit?
No.
Did you mosh? Oh.
No. Dude, though, like, for guys in their early 70s, late 60s, like...
They rock?
Oh, yeah.
Dude, I
Angus
bet.
Young put on, like... He did, like, a 25, 30-minute guitar solo, dog.
What?
Yeah.
Ever. I don't even know enough notes.
He was, like, jumping and kicking, doing the duck walk and whatnot.
Dude.
And he's like this... He's 69, dog. And he, like, I don't know if you've seen any of their music videos from back in the day, but, like, when he's really jamming out, he'll, like, fall down on his back and start spazzing around. He did that at the concert, dog, and I'm, like, got freaked out because there's this old man falling down, thrashing around, playing guitar, and I'm like, is he okay?
Do you think that he sold his soul to the devil for his fame? Do you think he sacrificed children or drank baby's blood?
I don't
deals.
think I believe in the devil in that way. That, like...
Some fishy.
I don't subscribe to the devil in the sense of, like, there's this, like, evil enemy of God.
Oh, there's dark entities that you have to commit your loyalty to.
He's fighting against God, and they're in opposition to each other.
That's how you achieve your fame. You want to talk about occult symbolism in some pop culture, dude? We should go down that rabbit hole sometime. Look up the music video for Paint the Town Red by, what's her face? Doja Cat.
Oh.
Serious, dude, there's some weird stuff. I went through Eminem's entire library once, counting all the times that he mentioned selling his soul to the devil, and there's like 5 or 6 different songs.
I don't know.
And there's some pretty obscure, suggestive lyrics by a lot of people that are very famous that talk about that. Then you got these little guys that aren't that famous that are all talking about how they didn't sell their soul. And they're not famous because of it. They have their little cult following, but it's nothing like what they would have if they would have made those deals. Makes you wonder.
Do you believe one can sell their soul to the devil?
I cannot prove it, but what I choose to believe is yes.
Okay. Do you believe certain artists have?
Yes.
And what does that look like? Like in...
Dude, that's exactly the weird thing that, like, I don't know. Because when you go down that...
We could do an entire... I'm always making suggestions of what... Like, we're going to do all these, but we could do an entire episode exploring, like...
Yeah, it's a long speculation to go into.
Just the whole idea of Satan and the evolution of that idea throughout history, or...
There's a lot of, like, major events that just the gematria of these things line up so well. And then, like, different... Okay, Taylor Swift. That's a popular one these days, about how she's, like, doing these witchcraft-looking performances. And how everything... Like, there's this one where she is on this platform, dives into this water, swims around, and pops up somewhere else, starts singing this one particular song that all of it, like, these conspiracy theorists will go and break down the whole thing to show the symbology of witchcraft, this submersion into water, which symbolizes something, coming up again, symbolizes something else. These lyrics right after that symbolize something else, and it's like the way they present it is pretty dang convincing.
But could you not do that with anything?
That's the thing.
Like, could we pull up a music video by, like, any given artist and probably come up with some bullshit?
That's exactly the problem. But there's also... You have to keep in mind the opposing view, which there's this... Dude, it was in the mid-90s. Somebody came out with this book that was supposedly proving the Bible true because of some gematria, the numbers behind, like, the letters and the words in the original texts, and saying, like, oh, Genesis, like, these first words have this many letters, there's this many words, and they line up perfectly with this whole chapter, yada, yada. Everything's proven true. These different verses that reference each other, like, all have the same numeric value in the letters of the original text. And then, like, this was, like, dude, I gotta look up what that book's called, but there's this other guy that after that book came out, he went and used the same research to look into the words of the book Moby Dick. And it was exactly the same. So it's like, okay, are these inspired perhaps by the same supernatural being, the same muse, so to speak, the same God? Or is it just we only have these many letters that just odds are they're going to line up at some point or no? Like, I don't know.
A good book to check out would be Man and His Symbols by Carl Jung.
Carl Jung.
He talks about, like, these archetypal symbols and patterns that exists in culture stories all over, like, spread apart, cultures not connected in any way, telling these stories that have these monomyths, these similarities that stretch out across cultures, which I know I'm repeating myself, but...
Well, you want to wrap up this episode? I think that's a pretty good one for Gilgamesh.
I'd say so. I really enjoyed this one.
That was fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree. So there you go. Epic of Gilgamesh, the epic tale of 2/3 God, 1/3 man, Gilgamesh,
Yes.
searching for immortality.
My friends, remember to not be a tyrant, to be neighborly, to be honest, kind.
And remember that life is only so long.
Yeah, savor your life.
You have to do what you can with what you got, where you're at.
Take time to pet a cat on the streets.
Pay for a homeless guy's food. Until next time.
Peace.
Toodles.
If you would like to contact us, email us at peaceandtoodles@gmail.com. Until next time, salutations, my fellow strangers.